The divorce is final, or rather it's soon to be. With news of Cole Beasley's impending departure in free agency, the Dallas Cowboys must now shift gears and begin searching for a definitive replacement. They had plans to keep the veteran slot receiver in tow, but knew it'd be a long shot. The wedge between the two sides has been present since 2017 and was driven deeper by the decision to not fire offensive coordinator Scott Linehan after considering it on two separate occasions in 2018, and scheme issues were a large reason for Beasley's step back following his career-best 2016 year that helped push quarterback Dak Prescott to a Rookie of the Year season. There was an uptick in his production last season, but the wildly inconsistent targets from week to week combined with at least two contract offers he deemed far too low to consider, and the third nailed the coffin closed on the relationship. The club reportedly offered Beasley a 3-year, $18 million deal that was blown out of the water when the Buffalo Bills called and gave him a 4-year, $29 million offer with $14.5 million in guaranteed money. Needless to say, he'll take his talents, along with a parka, to upstate New York, and the Cowboys will look both inward and outward in the attempt to replace him. It could be argued they did so in 2017 with the selection of Ryan Switzer, but the same Linehan who convinced the Cowboys to sign offensive line coach Paul Alexander, jettisoned Des Bryant and was key in driving Beasley out of town, also talked them into sending Switzer to the Oakland Raiders for defensive lineman Jihad Ward, who didn't make the final 53-man roster. And with that, it's mulligan time in North Texas. The club has already begun to label Allen Hurns as a possible successor to Beasley, but that could be a problem for several reasons. The most glaring comes by way of his rehabilitation from the gruesome broken leg suffered in the playoffs, landing him in the hospital and ultimately on injured reserve. He's making strides in his recovery and has said he'll be ready for the start of the 2019 season, and while the Cowboys hope that's true, there are no guarantees it'll happen. They'll need to have a contingency plan in place should he become a candidate for the pup physically unable to perform list, but there's yet another issue even if he's ready to go. Simply put, there are better options, both present and upcoming. Picking up the option on the final year of Hurns' 2-year deal won't stop the team's goal of re-signing Tavon Austin, the speedy veteran they landed via trade in 2018 with the goal of replacing Switzer. Austin didn't fare much better last season than did Hurns though, largely due to a groin injury that cost him 9 regular season games, when also factoring in his back-end stint on the inactives due to concerns on a possible setback. It's not the first injury Austin has dealt with by any stretch of the imagination, making him a bridge player at best for the Cowboys. It's possible new offensive coordinator Kellen Moore can squeeze more juice out of that orange, but until further notice, it's best the club plant some apple seeds. That could come by way of Cedric Wilson Jr. No slouch to producing when his number is called, the 23-year-old native of Memphis, Tennessee has been known to impact a game or several. Wilson also has the football pedigree, considering his father, Cedric Wilson Sr., is a former University of Tennessee and NFL star at the position. That intangible combines with his above-average wingspan, hand size, and vertical jump to create a nightmare assignment for smaller defensive backs. If the ball is anywhere near Wilson's impressive catch radius, he's inhaling it. And obvious physical attributes aside, his high football IQ quickly ingratiated him. Wideouts coach Sanjay Lal, who sounded like a kid in a candy store in describing what he saw from the rookie. CED, Rick Wilson, has picked up the offense better than most of the guys in the room, said Lal in July 2018, via the Doomsday podcast. And now it's becoming like, okay, we need a guy to run in there. CED, go in, and he knows what to do. He's coming along. I'm very happy with it, and if you don't buy into all of this sleeper hype just yet, well, that's what numbers are for. Wilson reeled in 694 deep pass receiving yards in 2017, and that was good enough for second most among NCAA draft-eligible FBS wideouts. His 2,640 receiving yards and 18 touchdowns were delivered in only 26 games at Boise State, and for those doing the math at home, that's an average of over 101 yards per game. If it's the tall slot angle they're looking to take, Wilson deserves a hard look. Film also shows he's a better route runner than both Hurns and Austin, with the former showing questionable moments pre-injury in that arena, and the latter being more of a straight-line deep threat. To Wilson's credit, he can also take the top off of a defense when asked to, and virtually on demand. He yields to Austin in the speed category, but we're talking about the slot position, where quickness and route running are much more valuable. Wilson has also more weighty, an ideal attribute when dealing with nickel corners and NFL linebackers. Advantage: Wilson. Discussing those three wideouts is simply a description of where the Cowboys will begin searching though, because there is much more to consider. Also on the roster are players signed to futures deals, such as Devin Smith and Reggie Davis, hailing from Ohio State and the University of Georgia, respectively. Both stand at 6 feet tall or greater, although Davis gives up more than 15 pounds to Smith. That works in the former Bulldogs' favor though, because he absolutely torched the 40-yard dash heading into the 2017 NFL Draft, teleporting forward to a 4.36 finish. Davis is no slouch when it comes to that himself, however, registering a blistery 4.42 burst the same year. This would help both break free in the open field once the ball is in their hands, and both fit the tall slot persona, but there's still something missing here. The route tree. Both Smith and Davis are still in that capacity, relying more on their speed than the ability to get open against aggressive and physical corners, and that makes them a bit more suited to challenge for the backup to Michael Gallup in the Z role than hoping they'll readily step in and fill the void Beasley leaves behind. They are options, though. By now you're seeing potential from the in-house candidates, but it's unlikely you're feeling all warm and fuzzy instead, and that's warranted. The Cowboys shouldn't either, considering they can also flex Cooper inside at times, the outright best route runner on the team with Beasley gone, for added oomph and to keep defenses from keying in on him in any capacity. That makes pinning any hopes of Hurns or Austin being a primary slot less pressing, especially with the NFL Draft approaching, and that's where the club might find the gold at the end of their not-so-colorful rainbow. Names like Andy Isabella out of UMass and Clemson's Deebo Samuel come to mind, and then there's Mecole Hardman and Riley Ridley, both having made a big impact in their time with Davis's former school in Athens, Georgia. Outside of Cooper, there isn't a player on the Cowboys' current roster who can boast the ability to dominate the route tree like these four prospects. And with the team lacking a first-round pick thanks to a deal to land Cooper that has paid off in spades, they'll be thrilled to know there's enough depth in the slot receiver pool this April to potentially pull the trigger on one with the 58th overall pick, if not in the third round. Additionally, they can all double as returners, something the Cowboys are in desperate need of. With Beasley now gone, the question of who lands the crown at the position while also adding value as a returner is well pronounced. The true heir, however, may not be on the roster just yet. Give Wilson the primary look, but do it with your shiny new draft pick challenging the veteran frontrunners for the throne. After all, competition is the name of the game, especially when it costs you pennies on the dollar and could help mold the future of the offense and special teams unit. Beasley led the team with 98 targets and 833 receiving yards only 2 seasons ago, and the time has come to find a new slot machine.